Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dads, listening to Tomcats, talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Today, we continue the director's spotlight, and it's all been building up to this for Christopher Nolan. We are discussing the brand new Oppenheimer. This movie was released July 21st, 2023. It was based on the book by Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin, and written for the screen by Christopher Nolan, directed by Christopher Nolan. I'm Colton Robertson, and I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. We're talking Oppenheimer today, buddy.
We got to it.
We did indeed. Me and you took a trip just a few hours ago to go see Oppenheimer in a good old 70 millimeter showing, which was very, very nice to see. You know, I don't know that I've ever actually seen a movie shown via film, literal film, not digitally projected. And you could tell, and I liked that. I liked that touch. 70 millimeter was a cool experience, and if you have the opportunity to see a movie in 70 millimeter, and especially this one, strongly recommend. But
even the stuff that was like, I don't know what you call it, but like the little grainy, or like not graininess, but like the little stuff that would pop up just every now and then, like
film crackles.
Crackles. That's a good word for it. But like, it doesn't like. Some people find that annoying, but like for me, it almost like gave it more of like an authentic feel. It makes it feel way more. It's
real. Also set in the 40s and and through like 30s, 40s, 50s ish is what I would say. But and so it kind of puts you in an older time period to see a movie with that authentic film crackling, grainy sort of feel, and it was really interesting to see. And I'm very happy we did it. I'm very happy we made a little trip about 45 minutes west to go ahead and catch this on a 70 millimeter screen, and I'm very happy we did. We're going to start this one spoiler free as much as possible, like we did with Asteroid City, to kind of just let people who haven't seen it hear us talk about it, and then at some point we'll go ahead and switch it up. Hard to spoil a biopic about a man who created the nuclear bomb. It was interesting though, and that's one of the strengths of this movie, and that's something you don't really, he created the nuclear bomb, and that's something that was so interestingly done with this movie, is like the tension they're building when it's like, oh God, are we going to destroy the world? They didn't destroy the world.
And we're here right now.
But you're sitting there going, oh my God, are they going to destroy the fucking world?
It's actually going to happen. They really do a really good job of putting you in that time. Like, I mean, because, you're right. Like, we know exactly what happens. We know, like, the whole story. We know the broad strokes. We know the big events that happen. We know the Trinity test. We know the 2 bombs that were actually dropped. We all know that. But, like, never did it take away from the movie at all. Like, knowing what happens, I don't think takes away from it. I think the more you know, I think probably the better the movie is, actually. Like, because there were some parts that, like, I had no idea about, that I was like, I don't know, just brought up in this movie, and I'm like, oh my God, that's actually like how it went down, and it was very educational. Actually.
Oh, 100%. It's so fascinating to see, like, you go into this movie. It's kind of brilliant of Christopher Nolan to have made this movie, because a lesser mind would go, well, this movie is about the Manhattan Project. It's about building the bomb and using the bomb. That is all the movie is about. But it's about the effects that the building of the bomb and the utilization of the bomb had on the people who created it. That's the best way to tell this story, because we know the dangers of the nuclear bomb. it showed us what we wouldn't have known about this process, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
I think that was a much wiser choice than just being like, well, yep, and we're gonna cap this movie off with the bombing of Japan. Yeah, no.
Yeah. No, and they, like, even in the project, I bet they knew eventually they would get there. Like, the making of the bomb itself. And if that's all, like, I don't know, that was never really the focal point of the movie. For a little bit, they were really focused on, like, well, you know, we need to make this time, you know, we need to make this date, we need to give a date for someone. You know, like, but there was never really a question of if, like, it was going to work or not. They were just like, well, yeah, we're pretty dang sure it's gonna work, but yeah, it's really focused on what's gonna happen after they get it done. And that, I don't know, that was like the politics side of it. I actually, like, yeah, super fascinating, because I think that's most people, when they hear the Manhattan Project story, they just hear, well, a bunch of scientists were in a desert for a little bit, and then they came out, they made the bomb, and then we dropped it on Japan. And that's like, that's pretty much all I knew, you know. And then the more I went on, I've watched some random YouTube videos on Oppenheimer and his life, and like before he made the bomb, but no, like, it never really gets into what happens afterwards, like, to him, ever. And like, it was I don't know, completely, like, not blindsided me, but took me by surprise that that's where the movie was going. And like, they really were focusing on that. And I don't know, it, like, on paper, wouldn't really seem that that's like the most exciting thing to focus on this story. You know, you'd think it would be the explosions and, like, I guess not really exciting.
No, yeah, that's what's fascinating about this movie, is that, like, that's not how I would describe it in any capacity. I think this movie's far from exciting. In fact, it's very tense.
Yeah,
you know, like, it makes you feel what you're supposed to feel at the times you're supposed to feel it, I think. And in that, it really succeeded. But you know, you see a lot of people talking about it right now as Nolan's best, the best thing Nolan's done, and it might be, you know, it might be his best. I don't know. I'll have to, you know, it's funny, we did the whole anticipatory podcast. I would say it's better made than the three we covered.
Yeah,
I think it's better than Prestige. I think it's better than Dunkirk. I think it's better than Tenet. It's probably his most interesting movie yet, in that I mean, it's a 3-hour runtime. It does not feel like 3 hours. That shit breezes the fuck by, and that's due to the editing. That's due to the pace of this movie, and I think all that really worked to its advantage. And therein, like, it's the most interesting in that it's just a bunch of people sitting around talking for most of the movie, and I'm as gripped as I am with Tenet, for example, or Dunkirk.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm fully enveloped in the movie, and it is mostly just people sitting around talking.
That's true. Yeah, there was no action, no, like, you know, crazy storyline that you're like, oh, I wonder how this is going to unravel. Nothing that like is keeping you in like that. You know, necessarily like Interstellar, you know, you have just very, very crazy things that are space and time travel or dilation, all this stuff that's going on. You have to, you know, kind of even figure out what's going on in the first place. But yeah, you're right. Like, it is just a bunch of dialogue, and they made that interesting for 3 hours long. Yeah, I didn't really think about that until this now, but, like, yeah, there's zero action, like, in this movie other than the explosion, and that, and that's not even action. I'd really, you know,
no, not one bit. It's an incredibly short-lived part of this movie, actually seeing an explosion. And we watched you see the Trinity test, you know, like, that's all you see, as far as the explosions, which I think is a wise choice. I think that's it's in rather poor taste, I think, to head back to Hiroshima and Nagasaki and show the greatest tragedy in a single swift movement that anybody on Earth has ever committed, you know. Plenty plenty of atrocities, and I don't want to weigh anything. But as far as a single action, one thing that happened in a single moment, dropping a bomb and killing 200,000 people, and I mean, in the end, when all is said and done, 200,000. Like,
and I'm like 50-50 on it, kind of. I'm like, on one hand, it is so bad that I'd really rather not, have it. And like in a theater, like we all know what happens, and like it's bad, it's terrible. But then like that's what reminds people, like that's what, I don't know, what would make like a moment hit even harder, is if like, I don't know how, that's the thing. I don't know how to go about it. Like if you drop down in one of those cities and you show some of the civilians just like moments before, like
literally all you would show probably is just a giant mushroom cloud.
Yeah. I think that's the only way you could do it, is just like aerial view. Like if you drop down into the city, show like little kids playing or something like that, like right before or something. I don't know. Like that's like, I don't know, but I don't know, like, cause it was very very fast.
No, it just kind of happened.
And I think that's because that's how it really happened. They were like, the test worked.
And again, it's going back to how J. Robert Oppenheimer experienced these events. He didn't see that happen.
Yeah.
He didn't, he was waiting around to hear about it. Then he hears about it, and the way it kind of sinks in, of the effect that he's officially had on the world.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, because it is very through Oppenheimer's eyes. Like, I mean, it is his the way he viewed everything, and that's how he would have viewed it. He didn't have, it wasn't on TV. He didn't get to see a video of it and like a briefing or it was just, yep, it happened. Thank you for your technology. That's all it is.
There's a lot of really good stuff about this movie. So all in all, whenever I say that, because for me, I think personally, after one viewing, I think after two viewings, this would go up for me. I think that the more you watch this one, the more you understand everything. It's 3 hours, like I said. The editing is incredible, but the pacing is so quick that there is so much information dropped that it slips through the cracks just naturally. Like it's a long fucking movie. And I think the more you watch this one, the more you can get out of it. Which is typically a pretty good sign, and I think that I would probably personally hold this at 3 or 4 on my Christopher Nolan ranking. You said it in the car when we were on our way back. Dunkirk. It's about where I hold Dunkirk mentally, I think it's better than Dunkirk. I think there's something to be said for it potentially being his best yet, but I don't enjoy it as much as Interstellar or The Dark Knight. I enjoy it about as much as I enjoy Dunkirk, I think.
And though, it's a different thing covering like Interstellar, a thing that hasn't happened. It's completely fiction, made up, just story from scratch. Dunkirk, it did really, really happen. That is a real event, but I guess some of these things were
hyper fictionalized for the story.
And then so I mean, it is different. Like making a movie about something that is history, and then it's like a completely different motive or different purpose for the movie. Like this movie is like showing what happened to maybe remind people about what happened. Maybe we've lost sight of this, we haven't thought about it in a while. I don't know if that's like his motivation behind it. Maybe it was just that he got really enthralled in the book and was like, I need to make a movie about this. Maybe that's all it is. Or maybe he was like, I don't know. I don't know what the motivation is behind it, but I mean, it's definitely, you don't hear about nuclear, we don't really hear about bombs often. Like in our day to day, I don't know.
Well, and that's what's fascinating too, is the timeliness of this, the amount of time that this has probably been being worked on. And I'd say there's been a ramp up of discussion about potential nuclear war in the last couple years than there has been in a while. At least as far as I know. I am early 20s, so I've only recently really started paying attention to that sort of stuff. Maybe there's always been that sort of discussion, but as far as like the last 10 years is concerned, when I've really become aware of politics in the world at large, it's really been the last couple years where it's been like, oh, we might be fucked soon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a good thought. That's the thing, is that like like the complete juxtaposition of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Like it's like this isn't a movie you're gonna go into to have a good time. Like that's I don't know. Like you're not having a blast while you're watching this movie. It's more, I guess, depressing than anything, but not like in the sense of like it's so bad that I'm.
The word I would use to describe it is harrowing. Like it leaves you with the sense of existential dread almost in a way that not a lot of movies do. But I wouldn't say it necessarily leaves you sad, like it leaves you just kind of like, oh,
like, dang,
fuck.
Yeah. Like,
like that's kind of the feeling you get coming out of this. And to speak to this movie and how it was made, and to credit Christopher Nolan, I don't think another motherfucker can make a movie like this. I don't think you can satisfyingly pull off the exact story that Christopher Nolan pulled off here in any more satisfying a way than Christopher Nolan did. I think the kind of king of biopics, as far as like non-fictional, based off a book retellings of stories, is Martin Scorsese. I think that Wolf of Wall Street, The Aviator, these sorts of movies. We're about to get Killers of the Flower Moon later this year. As far as the non-fiction stories are concerned, he's kind of got that shit on lock. And I don't think he would have the touch that Christopher Nolan did with this movie. I think he would make something incredibly different. I think it would be like a different sort. It would be a completely different feeling movie. And I think the sort of intimacy and the like, it was so fascinating how it almost felt like personal. Like it felt incredible. It felt like Christopher Nolan cared a lot about the movie he was making, and that's something that I'll always appreciate. So like, I want to give Christopher Nolan flowers for this one, because his work shines. Like he does a really, really good job.
I'm officially on board.
I've talked about it week after week here, how I haven't made the switch to being a fan, and I think I have. I think I'm there. When you have a top 5 like Interstellar, Dark Knight, Dunkirk, Tenet, and Oppenheimer, doing pretty fucking good, man. You're doing pretty fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, I saw an interview he was in, a lot of interviews that he's been in recently, and like just learning about what more of a like the kind of person he is. But he was asked, like, are you ever going to stop? Like, are you going to take the Tarantino route and stop making movies at one point? And he was like, no. And he's like, no, I don't think
Probably
so.
not.
He's like, if the story's there and it's good, and I don't want to make a movie about it, I'm going to make a movie. But he's not worried about keeping a perfect track record or anything like that. But goddamn, does he have a pretty perfect track record so far?
Track record. I don't like Inception, but I mean, tons of fucking people do. So like, I can't knock it. It's just not it's just not to my taste. The man's done the fucking thing. You know what I'm saying? Like he's come in and he's made his mark, no doubt. One of the only dudes who can sell a movie as a director based on the name of the director. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think there's a lot of people who can do that. And as far as like mass populace, like this movie is raking in cash. Like it is making money, and I think that part of that is due to the Barbenheimer sort of event. I don't think I think that if actually, what's funny is Warner Brothers was trying to fuck Christopher Nolan over by releasing Barbie the same weekend, because he's made every movie in his career with Warner Brothers up until Oppenheimer, and then they did the day and day release for Tenet with HBO Max and theaters, and he decided never fucking again. I'm not gonna work for Warner Brothers. So they were like, you know what? We're gonna put our event movie of the summer on the same date as Oppenheimer, and they ended up making his movie make more money.
Little did they know they played I don't know. I wonder if it came out a month ago. Does it really get
And that's the thing. Like, I don't want to discredit this movie completely by saying, like, I think it would have made a decent amount of money, but the amount of money it made is because of the Barbenheimer moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why the movie made as much as it has. And, you know, like, people are like, it's because we got two good movies on the same day. And it's like, yeah, you know, like, I'd like to think that too, but this is the first time I think meme culture has actually benefited the box office. And I think Asteroid City was a decently good example of that as well. Like, that was Wes Anderson's most successful movie financially. And we'd had the day in the life in the shoes of Wes Anderson sort of meme going on, you know, like, we've gotten sort of there's a certain relevance that people are looking for in other movies beyond, you know, the typical superhero movies. We had the fourth biggest box office weekend ever this past weekend.
Yeah, that's insane.
Behind Endgame, Infinity War, and Star Wars The Force Awakens, then it's Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yeah. That's insane. How are you gonna... Those top three are, pretty
impenetrable.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 23 movies leading up to the top two, and then from 1977, you know, it's like from all the, like, generations of people were waiting for the next Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And now this is just the first. Is there been a Barbie movie made?
The first live action Barbie movie. There's been a lot of animated Barbie movies.
Barbie and a war movie. You know, I wouldn't even really call it
not even a war movie, a historical biopic, an R-rated historical biopic. Like, that's 3 hours long. Like, that's insane shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of nuts that this movie has performed as well as it has. And I'm so glad that it's performing as well as it has, because Christopher Nolan was always going to make the next one. You know, he's always going to, he's earned that, you know, he's going to make his next movie, but I guarantee you studios will be like, yo, can we, like, come over here, Christopher Nolan? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to hook you up real quick. But man, I really, really enjoyed this one all in all. Not to the extent that I've enjoyed some of his other movies, but from a sheer just kind of like movie making, like, wow, this is a good movie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Not like all the reviews that were coming out. Like, and maybe it goes back to like, every time I go into a movie with low expectations and I'm like, whatever, like, I'm just going to watch this, and it turns out to just, even if it's just good, it's going to be way better because the movie's going to be the movie no matter what. And like, going in with whatever expectations you go in with. But like, I definitely went into Oppenheimer with very high expectations.
High expectations.
People were saying, like, it's not even close. This is like Nolan's absolute best without a doubt. This is the movie of the year. This is like, and all these things I'm hearing. And like, yeah, it is a really good movie. Like, as compared to all of the rest of just movies that I've seen, like, yeah, this is in the top 25, I could say, probably, for me. And maybe that's recency bias, but like, I'd say it's probably more like top 50 of all time for me. You know, like, I don't know.
The way people were building it, you know, like, I hold Interstellar in an extremely high esteem. You know, I know that a lot of people don't, but I absolutely do. I think it's, as far as the heart of that movie, the emotions of that movie, that's not what this movie was for. You know, it wasn't meant to be quite as emotional as Interstellar sort of is. But I do think, however, that there are a few things that happened in this first watch that didn't hit me that I think would wallop me on a second watch. I think there are a few things that like a rewatch would just kind of make me go like, fuck, you know, cause I'm so glued to, like, again, I'm always going to bring it back to this because the editing by Jennifer Lame and the way that feeds into the pace of it, you kind of don't have time to dwell on any emotions. You kind of just keep going from thing to thing. And, that absolutely doesn't discredit the movie by any means. It's just a fact of the movie. You're kind of moving so fast that you almost can't take yourself out of it to get emotional because you might miss the next thing. But I think on a second viewing, I would. There are a few things that I think would hit pretty hard. One thing that Christopher Nolan notoriously has a little bit of a tough time with is writing women. Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh are both fantastic performers in this movie, but Florence Pugh as Jean Tatlock didn't get nearly enough exploration for the emotional hit they wanted to make.
Yeah, that's totally right. Yeah, like it was more of an emotional hit for just Oppenheimer himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you also
audience.
You also by that point in the movie don't really love Oppenheimer, by any means, and you never really do because you go into it knowing this is the man who gave the world the power to destroy itself. So you're just kind of like, wow, this is about a troubled dude. You know what I'm saying? And he's been proven to be he cheated on his wife with Florence Pugh's character, Jean Tatlock. So you don't feel bad for him whenever stuff starts going wrong for him ever, really. And they didn't explore Jean Tatlock enough to make me be like, oh no, it's sad. It's obviously sad, but it's not because what the story did to make Jean Tatlock's death. I mean, that's hardly a spoiler because they breeze right past it. I feel like, it just kind of happens. Jean Tatlock's death, and I think that's something they could have reckoned with more. I think Emily Blunt's character, Kitty Oppenheimer, was one of Nolan's better examples of writing women.
Yeah, definitely near the end for sure. And near the end, she had a scene that was like almost my favorite scene. Yeah. I don't know, it was almost up there.
Her and Jason Clarke going back and forth at the end is fucking incredible. But again, portraying her as an incredibly complicated woman. This is a complicated couple, and that's one of the reasons why you don't like Oppenheimer for cheating on his wife, but you also don't really hold it against him.
Yeah,
at least I didn't. I was kind of like, yeah, man, I'd look for affection elsewhere as well.
Yeah, they weren't really. Yeah,
they didn't have.
It wasn't the best relationship you could. Yeah, that's no. Sure.
And that's what's interesting though is that they don't spend any time building those relationships either. It's kind of just it's almost just founded on mutual respect more than it is like physical attraction and love. It felt like. Yeah, it was just kind of like you got the smarts. You're dope. Let's do this thing. And that's kind of all their relationships seem to be. And maybe upon a rewatch, I would maybe something would stick out to me. But upon first watch, it didn't really seem like that. And that's why stuff like that, in comparison to some of the friendships Oppenheimer develops.
Yeah.
And maybe not friendships, but again, relationships built on a mutual respect. With Matt Damon's character. At the end, you get a big fulfilling moment based off of their relationship. I think you get the same with David Krumholtz's character. There just a couple of the people that he's associated with, you feel the connection he has to them a little bit more than you do any of the women in his life. And maybe that is symbolic. Maybe it is that women always took his love life always took a back burner to his work.
Yeah, because you would think if it was told through his eyes, which I mean, most of this, if not all, was really told through his eyes, other than the parts that just
are black and white and are pretty much Robert Downey Jr.'s perspective.
But you would think it would be a little bit bigger of a part of the movie or the story, and it's not really his life. It's his life, this isn't fiction. This is real. This is a real dude, but I would have thought that it would have his kids, they could have, I'd imagine that he would have had the conversation of I'm not going to tell my kids this, but oh my God, we might not make it through tomorrow, right. Or just that conversation of hey, this might go really, really bad. And just having that conversation, I felt like something to give that storyline, and it's weird calling it a storyline, but like I don't know, it wasn't really focused on at all. And you're right in saying that like the relationships he built with like the other scientists and the military men were probably way more fleshed out than the actual marriage he had.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that like from the perspective of a guy like Oppenheimer, when those stories are being told, he's a real reclusive dude. He doesn't reach out. He doesn't try to make connections. In fact, he kind of retreats from them. So it's kind of like the reason we don't see relationships explored is because he didn't explore relationships. You know what I'm saying? They just kind of were with him. And at least that's how the movie presents it, you know? And another big example, and I think that comfortably we could probably we've gone for about 30 minutes. We can pivot into spoilery territory, because there's not much about this movie you can spoil, but there's something of a twist, and then the very last scene is just too good to spoil.
Yeah,
so
I
like,
wouldn't want to spoil that for anybody.
So we're gonna give you a warning. You dip the fuck out of here if you haven't seen it. If you don't mind, stick around because it's worth talking about, worth listening to, I think. But we are spoiling some stuff from here on in. As far as the relationships developed in this movie, another one of the interesting ones that didn't work for me because it was meant to. It felt like there was supposed to be a twist at the end, was Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Strauss. Strauss, right? And Oppenheimer. Whenever it's like revealed that he's got like a deep-seated beef with Oppenheimer, I feel like that's supposed to feel like some sort of betrayal, but there was nothing that led me to the contrary, where it was like, I know that throughout the movie he's just kind of been like, man, what are we going to do? Can we get through this? You know, like, I didn't have anything to do with that. Well, oh well, you know, like that's kind of his whole role in the movie up until the end. And I guess he was at a lot, like at the dinner party with him and stuff. And
but it was really only just like, hey, they have it. They tested it. We need, what are we going to do? It's like all he really was kind of saying. There was no, like, there was no relationship built on mutual respect. There was no relationship between them at all. They kind of knew each other is all that I really gathered from it. Oh, I guess like at the beginning, like he gave him the job, right? Or like, was that a different job even that he was being given? Like because that's whenever he has the conversation with, like, he's bringing him to wherever they are, some campus, I think. And then he's like, hey, that's your house, short commute. Like, it's yours, he's like, all right, I'll consider it. So I guess he's like, what job was that? What role was that even for?
I think that was a teaching gig.
Okay, so that's where okay, that makes more sense. Because I'm like, it wasn't what landed him on the Manhattan Project.
It's actually after the Manhattan Project.
That was after that was already done.
Yeah.
Okay, so because after the Manhattan Project, like
and this is one of the reasons that I think rewatch would really benefit this, because I didn't key in on the relationship between Robert Downey Jr.'s character and Oppenheimer one bit, because I didn't think it was important enough to be a major twist at the end of the movie.
Yeah. I thought he was just a guy, like, role for the movie, and I'm like, they gave it to Robert Downey Jr.
Especially given the like nature of his testimony and stuff that he was delivering. It was kind of just like, no, I had nothing to do with that. I didn't know about this. It was kind of all that it was for a while, and then it's all of a sudden like, actually, I've been trying to tear down J. Robert Oppenheimer this whole time. It's been a deep-seated revenge plan from the start. That's one of those things that I think would be more fulfilling on rewatch, but on first watch didn't quite land for me. I thought it was effective in creating a sort of villain entity for the movie, like someone who you were supposed to be like, this is the antagonist. But
the twist doesn't really, like, the twist itself doesn't really feel or have the weight of like the twist that you would want or expect. But like, I don't think that takes away from Robert Downey Jr. like his performance there.
Oh,
like,
no,
I mean,
not one.
Yeah,
bit.
like that end scene was, or like when it started just to unravel for him, and he realized like, oh, like this is it. You know, like I'm not getting in now. Like you saw him slowly start to like just get more and more pissed, and then he like lets it all out in the office. You know, and like I like, you know, he's saying that like all Oppenheimer wanted all this for was just so he could be the most important man, you know, alive. He wanted it just for the fame, and you know, he wanted the bomb to be his, no one else's. And like, I didn't really get that impression at all. I think he had a little bit of ego to him, that's for sure. But like,
I think what's fascinating is as time goes on, I think Oppenheimer's ego actually gets smaller because he feels dwarfed by the atrocities that could be committed because of his ego leading him to this path. You know, so like there's an element where I think that the version of Oppenheimer that Strauss met is the version of Oppenheimer he projects onto him for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because he definitely was, he had a big ego. Like I remember whenever,
the general played by Matt Damon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. They didn't even say I was brilliant. You know, that's all they're giving me, or like whatever. Like he definitely had an ego. And I think that was like a part of the story that I really liked, or part of the movie I really liked, was like the from theory to reality. Like the closer he got to the reality of what was going on, the more and more he was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, oh shit. Like he knew what he was doing the whole time. And they knew they were making a bomb, and they knew it would kill a lot of people. But it was really just like, it was like a physics discovery. It was like, we didn't think this was possible. And like now it is. And like it's their whole life. That's what they've studied their whole life. They love physics, and that's how he sees the world. And you know, so like at first it's just kind of like the biggest physics project at the time. And then like the more and more the project goes on, he realizes like, oh, hold on a minute. You know, like as it's getting, like the reality is getting closer and closer, he starts to break down. And like, I mean, I think anyone in that position, you know, like is gonna break down. Like no one can be normal after that. You know, like that's
you're fucked.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, and it's
and there's all sorts of movies in my mind that I'm like connecting it to, you know, sort of like there's a big one with any sort of scientific discovery that I always go back to, which is Jurassic Park, where it's like, you know, you spent so time contemplating whether or not you could, you never even thought about whether or not you should. And, you know, that's something that they did reckon with in this movie, was whether or not they should. And the motivation was that if the Nazis get the bomb first, then we're fucked. You know, like that's kind of all the motivation you need to go ahead and enter this race. But then you come to a point when the Nazis are out of the war.
Hitler's
dead. What do you do now? Well, we're already starting building this bomb. We know other countries are working on building this bomb now. We have to be the first to complete this bomb, or else someone else might use it now. You know, and then it's like, okay, well, do we tell our allies we're going to use this bomb, or do we not tell our allies we're going to use this bomb and just kind of surprise them, and then we enter an arms race against those allies? Like the cascade of just disastrous events because of the concept of nuclear weapons is astonishing. And
that's the thing, is that like you can hate Oppenheimer for creating the thing. There would have been someone else in his shoes to make, you know, like eventually, if it didn't happen as soon as it did, probably wouldn't have happened as quickly, but like like weapons will always be made. Every scientific discovery that's ever made, one of the first thoughts that crosses every war general or, you know, anyone else's mind is like, how can we weaponize that?
Even the fucking scientists in this movie, whenever remember when they split the atom at the beginning of the movie, and Oppenheimer's like, well, there's only one thing on every physicist's mind in the world right now. And it's like, well, and then someone was like, can you explain it to me? I don't fully get it. And he's
what
like,
are you talking
weapons.
About? A bomb.
He's like, a bomb.
Yeah. Like, he's like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. It's like, it's not like, I don't know. There's not like, I hate weapons. I wish I could just hit a button and have every weapon on Earth gone in an instant.
Nice.
I know that's impossible, and that's really never going to happen. But like, the one thing I will like, in air quotes, about it is that for the wrong reasons, it makes us progress. You know, it increases our technology, and sadly, the weapons come first, and then all the stuff that should come first follows. Because like, if they, you know, could have thought for a second, oh, this is a massive release of energy. Maybe we can harness that and maybe power cities and stuff like that. You know, like that could be a first thought. I wish that would be the first thought, but no, it's
well. And then like, there's I think it was Albert Einstein in this movie who actually says it. He's like, take your findings, show the Nazis, you know, show them that this is what it's capable of, because even they don't want to destroy the world. They want to rule the world. You know what I'm saying? You can't be king of the ashes, you know, like, they're like, take your findings that you might destroy the entire Earth and show everybody. And it will make everybody decide they shouldn't do this. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, Einstein was really like a really cool character, like in here, like, but barely in it at all, you know, but every time he popped up was like, he is a wacky dude, and I think they portrayed that, you know, like he likes his
off and being like,
he likes his walk, you know, like he likes his walks to look at trees and like to
goes
to
out there every
afternoon and throws some rocks in the pond, whatever.
He's just hanging out with Kurt Gödel over here, walking through the trees.
And I think like, because I mean, that's the thing, is that like scientific discoveries like 500 years ago were like, oh, the Earth isn't flat. You know, like, it's not, it's a sphere, and like everyone can kind of be like, oh, well, no way, but you can wrap your head around that stuff a little easier than you can wrap your head around Einstein's theory of relativity. Like, there are people that study their whole lives to learn that stuff, and like, it's still just hard to understand. Yeah, and like when I was growing up in school, I always thought of Albert Einstein as like, this is just the smartest man to ever live. Like, it's like, how can you get smarter than Albert Einstein? But he was really just one of the first people to be like, hey, maybe the world works this way, and like, it's sort of right, but a lot of it was wrong. And like, I like that they focused on that, like in this movie, and even Einstein says it. He's like, the world it is not mine anymore. You know, like, I'm past it. It's all for you. Like, I can't remember the verbiage and stuff like that, but he's like, you know, it's past my time. You know,
yeah. Like, well, there was a really cool conversation between, I can't remember who was talking to Oppenheimer at the time. I think it was Robert Downey Jr., because they're looking out at Albert Einstein. And he's like, I was hoping you could talk to him. And he's like, Einstein's time has passed. You know, like he published his theory of relativity 40 years ago. You know, just a fascinating. Because something that I've always had a tough time with is recognizing where these massive historical figures actually, like, the time period they actually lived. Like, I know what they did, you know, like, I know their significance, but I don't like to watch the guy who created the atom bomb interact with Albert Einstein, who's hanging out with Kurt Gödel, and then they're going across the ocean to go see Werner Heisenberg and all this shit. It's just kind of insane to see all that kind of mesh right here.
It feels like a multiversal cameo thing, but it's actually just reality. Like, I don't know, it feels like they're pulling in all these crazy scientists and stuff. But
one of those crazy ones that I'm always just like, what the fuck is that? Like, Pablo Picasso died in like 1973. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah. During this movie, Oppenheimer, Pablo Picasso was somewhere. You know, like, that dude was existing.
Bro, until this moment, I thought he was like 1800s. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, that's
Vincent
insane.
Van Gogh was 1800s, but
wow,
Pablo Picasso died in 1973 at like 90. Like, he lived through the entire 1900s essentially.
Wow.
Yeah, so just that's a prime example every time I think about, like, wow, it's bizarre to think about when historical figures like existed.
Yeah. Wow.
Because there's something so unreal about them, which is why I love biopics, you know, like, to see them and it's not them, but it's an accurate representation of them. They're trying their best to kind of bring them to life. to see that done with Oppenheimer, who I've hardly ever had much interest in, but it's someone I probably should have had interest in. Like it's one of those things where it's like, this man created one of the most important things that's ever happened to humanity. Like
Matt Damon says it, that one guy that like turned down the opportunity to go to Los Alamos, and he was like, well, maybe because it's the most fucking important thing to ever fucking happen in history, holy shit, wrap your head around it.
That was a great scene. Whenever they're pitching it to everybody, they're like, so we're working on something. What is it? Can't tell you, but you got to agree to come. You can bring your family if you want, but you can't know yet. You can't know until we're there.
Compartmentalizing. I always have trouble saying that word.
Compartmentalizing.
Yeah, it's like the death of science. It's like science is the opposite of compartmentalization. You need like everyone to work together. Everyone needs to know what's going on. But obviously, a project like that probably better to keep secretive. There were some really, really bad people we didn't want to get a hold of. But man, did this project just like show the government how strong compartmentalization is. Because if it can keep the nuclear bomb a secret, they could keep anything else a secret. Like it showed like that's, maybe the chain reaction, part of the chain reaction that he's talking about, like that they started, like not just the explosions and giving people the weaponry, but like just all the ins and outs that happened because of this project. And man, it was just so sad to like see, because like you're right, like I didn't really care about Oppenheimer at first. Like I wasn't like on board with him, but like whenever you see his life start to like just get thrown away, and like it's like, wow, like this dude literally gave you exactly what you wanted. Like who cares what political views he has or opinions he has? He gave exactly what
kills me. Fucking destroys me that they're like, you could have given information to the communists, and it's like, if he did,
where's the bomb?
Where the fuck?
Like where's their Trinity test? Or like I guess they had some, and they had that, but
even so, it's like, okay, I'm not saying like, oh, so what if he did? But I mean, like, if he had, y'all ended the fucking war. The Cold War is going to happen anyway because they are going to do their best to develop these weapons anyway. Like that is, even if he tells them how to, then we're in the same spot we would end up in about 20 years later.
In a perfect world, if the U.S. could have it exactly like they'd want, no Russian spy that was in there, no anything, and it was completely contained, and the world found out about it when it was dropped on Japan. If that actually happened, Russia still is going to be like, I want one of those. That. Yeah, we need those now. It's not like you can keep it a secret after you drop it on 2 cities in the world. Like, it's like, it's going to happen no matter what. And that's the thing, is that like, all of this is inevitable. Like, I on one hand, like it would be nice to be like, no, just don't even research it. Don't even go there, but like,
it's going to get
I don't know. It's like, it's such a hard thing to grapple with. And that's, I don't know, that like during the movie, like that's what I'm thinking of. I'm like, man, like this is, like, I'm thinking of the philosophy behind the Manhattan Project instead of like the technicality and the science behind it, which I thought I was going to be way more interested in, but they don't really focus about that, which I think is definitely a good decision that they made. Like if they started going down like,
if there's anything that Christopher Nolan learned from the reception of Interstellar, it was to make it more about the philosophical stuff and not so much about the mathematics.
Yeah, bring the science down a little bit. Like, it's and
it was still extremely prevalent in this movie. It's just it could have been much more prevalent than it was.
Yeah, like the whole filling up the fishbowl and the little glass with marbles, like a perfect way to do that. Like the story behind that is insane in itself. How to like enrich uranium and how they were obtaining that. Like it's crazy how they didn't even talk about that. Like that's a whole other process in itself. But yeah, I think it
got this much uranium and this much plutonium.
Putting more in every time. Like
when he dropped like 3 and then he was like a 4th, a 5th.
How about another?
That was one of those times where you actually like Oppenheimer, is when he's when he's in his element and sort of like, because you can tell one of the things this man was meant to do was lead, and teach. Most in a perfect world, J. Robert Oppenheimer is just a really good physics teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just, if life was perfect in every regard, J. Robert Oppenheimer is just really good at teaching physics. But like the excitement they have there and the camaraderie they had there, but then realizing, getting wrapped up in that, and that kind of feeding his ego. And then getting to the point where they're going to test it, and then he recalls that quote he'd said earlier, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds," and he's like, "Oh God, oh fuck, yep, I just damned all of us," you know.
It's, I don't know. It is like, if we could do it all over again, you know, if we could time travel back to whatever year before we started this and do it differently. You know, what would we change? You know, and I think it's really funny how they're talking about how, like, communism and all things, and like all, like, during it, but then, like, to actually make the bomb in Los Alamos, he created a
community, a commune.
Community there, like literally to create this bomb that they wanted, he created a commune in order to do it, and like I thought that they were going to get more into that whenever, like, his wife walked in the house. He's like, "There's no kitchen," and she's like, "Oh, we'll fix that." I thought they were going to be like, "Oh no, we all cook for each other and we all eat in this, one plate." Right. Like, I thought they were going to go more into that, but they didn't. But I thought that was just kind of funny that, like,
he literally created a little commune in order to create this weapon.
His two loves together: New Mexico.
And maybe communism.
Three loves. Yeah, New Mexico, physics, and communism. He put them all together, and he made the biggest. I love
the way that he very clearly had communist leanings, at least as it's portrayed in the movie. But I like the way that he's like, I'm not tied to that ideology. You know, like it's such a narrow way to think that I can't think anything beyond this ideology. No, there are views that there are a lot of things that I like about communism, but I don't like everything about communism, you know? And they get into the difference between Soviet communism and the United States communism. And Emily Blunt, I'm pretty sure, is lying whenever she says she sees no difference, but there's it was just a really, really interesting way to frame ideology, and it's a really scientific way, I think, to think about ideology.
That's how I've always thought. It's like, why label yourself a Republican or a Democrat? Like, what you're basically doing is saying, all right, I am this way, so I'm going to go with what the Republican view is on it. Like, or whatever the view is. Why not just make the decision yourself? You know, like, it's
too hard.
Like, it's like, I don't know, like, just think about what you would do in the situation, not what just someone else says is
what a group
right
of people
thing.
You happen to think you align with.
Yeah, because, like, I guarantee you go up to a random person on the street, you don't ask them, left and right questions. You just ask them, like, hey, if you wanted to build a city, say you're this theoretical mayor and you're building a city out of nothing, wouldn't you like it if everyone just, like, didn't have to work? I don't know. Like, you just ask them, like, how would you make your
ideal city? If everyone had a place to live and everyone had food to eat and there was no crime. Everyone got along theoretically. Everyone, would you like something like that?
Everyone's, like, on the same page. It's really just, like, the part, like, I feel like just the labeling who you are is just is more divisive than anything. Like, that's, I don't know, it's just more destructive, in my opinion. And I don't know. People just thought for themselves, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Like, it is weird to say, like, to label yourself. And I think, like, that's a perfect way to put it, is, like, he does agree with a lot of the stuff that comes out of the Communist Party. Like, he isn't afraid to admit that, but he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to constrict myself to any one thing.
Yeah, and beyond ideology, like nationalism and patriotism. You know, I'm an American. This guy's Russian. This guy's Japanese. Guess what? Guess what you all are, though? You know, you're all humans.
We are all human, and we are all on the same planet. That the borders, by the way, we made up.
Yeah,
we made those up. The only real borders that there are land and ocean. That's it. Like those are the only, and rivers, I guess. A lot of borders are rivers and like the natural things. And
but that's the sort of thing that I think this movie is really fascinating for making you think about. It's just kind of like the value of human life, which I never lose sight of, but to be reminded of it so poignantly and harrowingly, to go back to that word I used earlier.
Yeah.
Like it's jarring, you know, and the more this happens with a lot of the movies we talk about. The more I talk about it, the more I like it. You know, I like this movie was really, really effective in the things that it made me think about and the things it's making me contemplate. But I think there's no better scene to kind of portray the philosophical effects, the mental effect that a project like this can have on you than once it's been announced by Harry Truman, portrayed by Gary Oldman, by the way. Don't know if you caught that.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it was Gary Oldman playing Harry Truman.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that
good.
just blew my mind. Holy shit. Okay,
very, very good.
Continue.
No, you're all good. I knew that would be a little bit of a thing there because it blew my mind when I found out too. But
what? Wow.
Yeah, it was fascinating when he announces, you know, like a bomb has hit Hiroshima, and then the commune's going to gather because their project was a success. What they've been working toward is complete. It's seen its use, and Oppenheimer, them all chanting "Abi, Abi, Abi" and stomping their feet with that,
waving their flags like crazy. Yeah,
man. But all that so that Oppenheimer can go up there and say a bunch of stuff he doesn't believe.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, he's standing there about to have the worst panic attack of his fucking life, walking in there, and he's like, we don't know exactly what it did, but I bet the Japanese didn't like it much. And everyone's like, yeah. And whenever everybody screams, he just it gets worse for him. He's like, oh God, like he can't help but continue feeding this spirit that he wants nothing to do with. But he's been put in a position where he feels like he has to.
It's like, what else do you do? Yeah, it's like, we've been working on this. We've spent so much money, so much of our time. Like, you'll be relieved that your time and stuff, like, it worked. But, like, to actually think of what that work did is, like, a whole different thing. And I think, like, you see some people kissing, like, under the bleachers, you know.
See
and,
other people stopping.
And, and like, that's
growing up outside.
Yeah, like, the famous, you know, like, the quote, like, I've become death. Like, in that interview, like, before he says that, he's, like, talking about the Trinity test, and he's like, some people cheered, some people cried, some people, like, it was all, there was a wide range of emotions. But during the Trinity test, I think it was only, what's his name? In The Boys, he's in The Boys,
Jack Quaid.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Jack Quaid. He was kind of the only one during the test to kind of not have a cheerful, no, that's wrong. His friend that always fed him.
David Crumholtz. I don't know his name, but
he was like, okay, I don't, like, he was kind of taken back and wasn't.
Well, and there's just kind of this sheer, like, the size of the moment. You can't, like, as it was happening, nobody got excited, you know? It wasn't until after it was over, nobody's hurt, nothing's happened, the thing we've built works.
Yeah.
Then we get excited, you know? But, like, as they're watching it, it's all just kind of awe and shock. Yeah. Like, I've never seen anything like that.
And man, the decision in it, I don't know, I guess it makes sense now that I watch it, but I expected right when the bomb went off to have a massive sound quake, you know, like I thought the speakers were going to But that's the thing. They were all so far away from the bomb that they didn't hear it until the shockwave hit them. You know, like they see it before like it hits them. And I think that added to the suspense. Like,
it added to the moment so fucking much, dude.
Yeah, that first shockwave scared the fuck out of me. Yeah, like
and then when it hits and it's like, I like jumped. You know, I thought we were just gonna experience this moment in silence, and then it was like, nope, it's gonna hit them here.
The first one scared me.
Yeah, but then they show everybody else, and it's like, oh yeah, now I'm ready for it. But the Trinity test was fucking brilliant. But to get back to the scene I was talking about, the single best choice. Like, as soon as it happened, I got chills, and this is the only time I ever got close to crying. I didn't cry, but my eyes like I kind of welled up. Was when everybody's cheering, and then you hear a blood-curdling scream, and then everything goes silent.
Yep.
My fucking God, dude. That was probably the best scream I've ever heard in any movie, as far as like the way it was utilized. Like, I got chills talking about it right now.
You could tell the difference, like between a cheerful
cheering,
scream,
and then there was a sheer horrific scream.
Yeah. Whoever that was, whoever was in the booth and just had to scream like that. Oh my God.
The idea that that's like Oppenheimer sitting in this moment, all of these people are cheering the death of who knows how many thousands. And when that sinks in, he sees it and he hears it and he feels it. Everything becomes white and sees the blinding light he saw earlier, and people's faces melting, and the charred corpse he steps on the way out. Like, that whole scene is so easily the best in the movie that I had no doubt in my mind I was going to go with it. And I was tempted to go with a shot from it too. Just the way when he's on his way out, he's like walking away from the stage, and like it's nothing but his face is in focus, and he's just kind of looking around, about to have just a massive panic attack.
What a heart racing moment of the movie. Like, you get the Trinity test, which is already like, oh fuck, like we're here, we're getting here, and like the build up is so good, your heart's racing. But then I don't know, my heart might have been beating harder, like during that scene, like the little speech he gave, like because it starts off kind of slow. You start just to see like the wall behind him start to like kind of
the shaking.
And I'm like, at first I'm like, wait, is that real? I'm like, wait, is that like on purpose? And I'm like, okay, it's definitely on purpose. Like when they went back to it, at first I'm like, I didn't know if it was like the film was messing up or something. But then I'm like, oh no, that's real. Like, this is real. And I'm like, oh, now I get it.
Well, because like, I loved the decision they made to show you that it's just Oppenheimer experiencing it. Because whenever they'd cut to other people and there was nothing happening behind them, and then they'd cut back to him and his whole world is fucking, it's like, that's a good choice, man. Like, it works in so many, like when he's in the interview room later and he's getting interrogated. And it starts shaking behind him again. He starts seeing the white flashing light again, and just kind of the witnessing of the test is the closest he's ever gotten to seeing how it might have actually affected people.
He had to put the puzzle pieces together himself.
Yeah.
And he knew how bad.
So the imagination, the imagination takes him so far, and then they get that briefing after the bombs where they're showing the aftermath, and then it's all extremely real. You know, like it's even worse than he thought too.
He looked at the first picture, and then the second slide, he's like, no. He's like, no, I'm done. I'm not looking at that anymore. And that was everybody. Everybody in that room was like, oh my God. You don't really, they heard Truman on the radio, and they were all giddy and like, yeah, we finally did it. Like, oh my God, it worked. And then they see what actually happens, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. They're like, oh no, like this is not good at all.
No.
And yeah, the scene in like I don't know what to call it, like the war room maybe, where like all those like top generals were, and Oppenheimer, and deciding where to drop the bomb.
My God.
How like detached that top.
There's a line during that scene that I legitimately sighed and just like looked down whenever he's like, we got 12 locations. Well, actually 11 have already crossed off Kyoto. That's where me and my wife honeymooned. We go and visit there every once in a while. I was like, oh my fucking God. Just a perfect encapsulation of American imperialism right there in one little line where it's like, well, we'll dominate any place we want except any place that we might want to have, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and like the fact that a military base just isn't even big enough. Like if you were to drop that bomb on a military base, it's like you're overkilling it, you know? Like in their minds, it's like, yeah, that's just overkill. This bomb is way bigger. It can kill way more. So we have to drop it on a city. And it's like I feel like people would have gotten the same idea, you know? I mean, like, I don't know. Like
well, and then the way Matt Damon's character delivers it, and he's like, no, not one, two.
Yeah.
One to let them know what we can do, and a second to let them know we'll keep doing it until they surrender.
Like, I guess I never thought about that. I've always just known that they dropped 2.
Yeah, but like I've never thought about why 2.
Yeah, and I thought it was just they didn't surrender, so we're gonna drop. But like, were they dropped on the same day?
I don't think so. I think they were a couple days apart.
I don't want to get anything because I don't know. They didn't really go into like a lot of the details on that. It was
August 6th and 9th of 1945.
Okay, so they gave them 3 days to decide. Yeah, that's no. That was from the beginning.
They were going to drop 2. Yeah,
that's no matter what. God damn.
The aerial bombings together killed between 129,000 and 226,000 people, most of whom were civilians, and remained the only use of nuclear weapons ever.
And in order to get that much uranium, like that was hard back then. I think that was part of the reason they dropped 2 was to show this isn't just all the uranium we have and that we can make another one, but like it is far easier to get that isotope of uranium now. Like we don't have to fill up a jar slowly now. We have an abundance of it in terms of like how many bombs we can make with it. Like we have a process in which to make it now. Like It wasn't like and like
now that we've done it, we can just keep doing it.
Yeah, and like the H-bomb, like the super that they kept like alluding to, he was like the scientist who was behind that. He's like, yeah, no, we use hydrogen. I think that's, you know, we don't need a fuel source that's not abundant. We just use hydrogen. He's like, well, how are you going to compress hydrogen enough to you know, to even get it to fuse? And they're like, oh, well, a fission
He's like,
bomb.
have you ever seen the movie Glass Onion?
Yeah. No, like, I mean, and like that's the thing is that like that is actually how the H bomb works. They use a fission bomb to just start it. That's the kickstart is a fusion bomb or a fission bomb to start the fusion reaction. The fact that we even got that, I don't know. I'm surprised that they didn't like. Well, I guess it was just about Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer was pretty much against the H bomb. Not completely against, but I guess like. I don't know, because in his like little hearing that he had, he was like, "Well, he did the research and he did what was necessary, but he didn't want it to happen. He thought the focus should be more of like telling the world and like or limiting nuclear arms and like finding a way, you know, about all that, the politics and stuff, and not like making the H bomb. But that's like they were worried about a chain reaction, you know." Like with a fusion or a fission bomb, and then they make something that is even bigger than that, you know, like it's crazy that like it was just like they truly didn't know. Like it's like the theory says this, you know, like this is how it works, and like it could.
We'll test it, and if we all die, man.
Like wow, like that's. I mean,
like obviously we don't wanna. All die, but if everybody does die, at least there'll be no consequences to face. Is kind of the attitude here is like, well, we have to, and if we don't, we're fucked.
The thing about science is that there's a chance for everything to happen. Like that's like it's always near zero. There's never a zero, you know, ever.
You're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, that was another line that was
button.
Yeah. We all go, well, or yeah, the theory says close to zero. What do you want more from theory alone? 0 would be nice. Yeah, that's what yeah. He said, are you saying that there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world? The chances are near zero. Near zero? What do you want more from theory alone? That was almost my line, was what do you want from more than theory alone? There was a lot of like callbacks to that of, theory can only get you so far, or what more do you want from the theory? This is just their job. And like I forgot who said it to him, but he was like, you can convince anyone of anything, and even yourself, like you've convinced yourself of some things that maybe you don't even believe. And he was like, we make the bomb. That doesn't give us any more reason to decide how it's used. Yeah. And then you see the people who are making the decision to see, how it will be used, and you're like, oh, well, that's a whole lot worse than, the people, like the scientists that were in there that were like, after Hitler was dead, they had a meeting and they were like, well, do we even need this anymore? Like they were already thinking of, I don't know, like it might have been better in their hands, but,
I liked that they used people who were in the commune and like helping building it.
Yeah.
Like the sect of people who was like, we shouldn't be fucking doing this, like we came here because we didn't know exactly what we'd be working on. We were just told it was the most important thing ever. And now we definitely see it, but my God, can we not? Like that was kind of the sentiment. And, it was a really, really interesting way to frame the sort of dissonance between, it was just really fascinating that Oppenheimer, once he was in so deep, what's the realistic odds he can leave that project? You know what I'm saying?
There's a 0 there,
An actual 0.
That might be an actual 0. 'Cause that is life consuming. Like, I mean, that's all that dude thought about for a long time.
That. There's a moment when Matt Damon jokes about something when somebody's leaving the project. He's like, are you not concerned about like how much they know? He goes, no, we'll just kill him. And he goes, I'm kidding. But coming from a guy like that, in a position that Oppenheimer's in, Oppenheimer knows that if he leaves this project, he will probably die. Like that's.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like if Oppenheimer decided to leave, that's done. That's done. So he already has some strikes against him, and that's like Oppenheimer even says, he's like, that's why you put me on, so that you can control me, because you knew I had a past and that the U.S. doesn't like whatever. And whether it was off his credibility alone, I don't know. But I think that probably was part of the decision, so that when it's over, we don't need you anymore. It'll be a lot easier to get you out if you're not a true American or whatever, whatever that means. Like it's just insane. Like how gave them exactly what they wanted in the minute that they didn't need them anymore. It's like, all right, well, they're in boxes. We're taking them off and we're putting them in a plane, and here we go. And,
you've done all you can here, man. Like, this is ours now.
Can I go to Washington to like be filled in? He's like, what? He's like, can I go to Washington? He's like, what for? He's like, why would you need to go to Washington? It's like, I don't know. Maybe I was just the dude who gave you this. It's like, you wouldn't even have this without me. I don't know. Didn't really defend himself much, or like fight for himself much. But I mean, there's just a lot going on there.
And there's an interesting perspective about J. Robert Oppenheimer here, where because this is the flip side of the ideology argument. Because he doesn't attach himself to an ideology, he doesn't feel the need to fight for anything too fiercely. He never stands up for what he believes in, because he doesn't think it matters what he believes. it matters what will or won't happen. That's all that there is, you know? And whenever it comes to Robert Downey Jr.'s Strauss at the end of the movie, he's like, did you know he's never said he's sorry about Hiroshima once? It's because sorry wouldn't do J. Robert Oppenheimer any good. It's because it happened, and him saying he's sorry doesn't do shit, you know? And Oppenheimer knows that. Mm-hmm. He will internalize the guilt until the day he dies. And he will reckon with it every day of his life. But he knows that if he speaks about how it was the wrong choice, he gets persecuted. And anything he wants to fight, like the only thing he even kind of fought for that he believed in was the commissioning of nuclear weapons and kind of try and stop the manufacturing of them. That's just because he knew, like we did the thing. We already did it. We don't need any more. Like that's it. We should try and figure something out where that doesn't need to happen anymore. But
I love how he used everyone there too, though. Like that one random girl that walks up and she's like, you know, they asked me if I could type, you know, and he's like, well, do you know how to type? He's like, well, you know, they didn't really cover that in my 4-year Harvard or whatever degree. Yeah, chemistry degree. They didn't really cover that. He's like, all right, you go and do whatever now. And it's like,
and he didn't give a shit about the bureaucracy, which is something that's another evolution you watch happen with him, where he doesn't give a shit about bureaucracy, and then he gets bogged down in it the longer he's in the game. Mm-hmm. He just keeps bringing people onto the project, and the general, played by Matt Damon, keeps going, what the fuck, dude? You can't just do whatever you want. This is compartmentalized. You can't do this shit. And he's like, well, I'm going to do it because you need me to do it, so I'm going to do it.
And that one, I don't know, other guy from Cambridge or something came in. He's like, yeah, compartmentalization, I got it. And he's like, well, I said I got it. I didn't tell you that I believed in it or whatever.
Yeah.
You know? I didn't say that I believe in it.
I told you I understood. I didn't tell you I'd do it. He's like, I'm going to tell you a bunch of shit that the general doesn't want you to know. So here we go. And it was fascinating to see a bunch of characters in this movie who, like, what I think is really interesting about some of the character work in this movie is that they avoid having to base relationships off of ideology. You know, like the dude who worked with Oppenheimer very closely, I can't remember his name, but that dude you're talking about that came in, and he was very anti-union and communist and was like, you can't bring that in here.
Oh, yeah.
No politics in the laboratory. And he's like, well, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because, you know, I think it's important to unionize. We should all be working under the same good conditions and have rights. And, you know, I think that's fair. And the dude's like, nah, fuck you. But they were like homies, which I thought was interesting. There's I really enjoyed 𝗔𝗍𝘋𝘀, that they kind of kept alluding to him and then showing him, but then they kept like not telling us his name, which was interesting. I liked that character a lot. I thought 𝗔𝗍𝘋𝘀 was really cool. The way he was like, yeah, like you can leave your kid here. I'm here for you. Whatever you need. Like, I got you.
That was nice.
And then when Oppenheimer holds it down for him at the end, he's like, do you still consider 𝗔𝗍𝘋𝘀 your friend? And his lawyer's looking at him like, don't you say you do? And he goes, yes. He's like, yeah, that's my fucking dog. I like shit like that. And the way they kind of all hold it down for each other at the end, where Matt Damon like respects Oppenheimer enough to be like, nah, he's a good dude. He is a good dude. He believes in America. Unfortunately, purely based off of what you're handing me here, I wouldn't pass him, but I wouldn't pass anybody. And they're like, that's enough. Yeah. And he's like, God, I wouldn't do anybody for that. You know, like that's I love the way the people who were defending Oppenheimer went to bat for him. And that was something that I really, really liked. And the way Oppenheimer tried to return the favor, specifically with 𝗔𝗍𝘋𝘀, you know, kind of being like, that's, you know, like they're good people, you know, regardless of what they helped me do, basically.
Yeah. And I like there were a lot of names and a lot of people in the movie, and I like how they literally, like, if a name was popped up, like Bohr, they like literally show a shot of the actor who's playing Bohr, and like, like
this is Niels Bohr, by the way.
Remember, this is who we're talking about. And I think I don't know, that was really helpful. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm very appreciative that they did that.
The only person who they didn't do that for was 𝗔𝗍𝘋𝘀, because they kept they kept calling him Chevalier, but then they never, whenever he was in a scene, they didn't call him Chevalier. So it kept like, there was kind of this dissonance between, I was like, who the fuck is Chevalier? And then they get to that point whenever he's in the kitchen with Oppenheimer one-on-one, and he's like,
yeah,
if you got some shit you want to slide down the wire, we could do something about it. He goes, that's treason. He's like, yeah, I know. That's
yeah, I know. I just didn't. I was hoping you wouldn't think that, like
almost like it's like the mob movie talk where like they're saying stuff without saying stuff. He's like, that would be treason. He's like, absolutely, it would. Just thought you should know about it. Like just in case, that was something that happened. Which I thought was hilarious, but yeah, Jean Tatlock, another great character played by Florence Pugh, who just unfortunately didn't get nearly enough exploration, I don't think, as far as the impact they wanted to make with her character, because her death scene, that's a really good fucking scene. And there's a couple really great scenes with Florence Pugh. The scene where Oppenheimer, and it almost seemed like it might have been Kitty imagining Florence Pugh on top of J. Robert Oppenheimer in that moment, not Oppenheimer thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Which was another really, really fascinating little detail where that was one of my favorite scenes with her. The sort of one-on-ones they had where she's like, you get to just come in and out of my life and there's no consequences. The way every time he got her flowers, she'd throw them away. And they just a really weird relationship dynamic that you never get to fully understand because I don't think Oppenheimer fully understood it. So like he just kind of,
like she's arguing with him like outside somewhere, and like, I just don't know what to think right now. I always call you, and like, well, I'll always. And she's like, well, just don't pick up sometimes. I don't know. Like I forgot what she said right before that, but it was like, what do you want me to do? It's like an impossible situation or whatever. But like, no, that's, I don't know. It was I wish they would have dove into her character a little bit more, and because it would have.
The suicide scene is like, that's another just like, kind of scene where, you see her committing suicide, but then you also get this flash of what I assume is Oppenheimer imagining his own hands kind of killing her, like he feels responsible for her death and in some capacity, which I thought was interesting. Or maybe he's imagining that because he was close to her and now he's working for the U.S. government and she's like a known communist that maybe the people he's working for did it. Like there's that was kind of unclear to me, but it was like, regardless, he feels it's his fault no matter what that this happened. And that scene between him and Emily Blunt was another incredibly well shot, incredibly well acted. Like,
and whoever was talking about this 15-minute long wild sex scene that you saw everything and it's all there. It's like none of that. It was all in. Yeah, like meme. I mean, there is some
people just ran with it.
There's some, some action in there, but like it's very short-lived, and then it's like, and then it gets to just dialogue, talking. It's like, I thought it was all handled very well. Like
the fact that the first I am become death, destroyer of worlds came with Cillian Murphy inside of Florence Pugh.
Yep. We didn't get the Trinity test or like an explosion as he climaxed, which we were.
It made me respect Christopher Nolan a little less.
Yeah. You know what? I'm taken back. I'm not a fan. I can't do it anymore. And the 50 star flags. Sorry, Nolan, if you're not paying that close attention.
Then I can't fuck you, dog.
Like, and I think that's satirical of the people that were like talking about that. How like, oh, he got this one mistake wrong. I can't.
For sure, 100%.
I bet there's some people out there that will actually hate that, like some history buffs or something. I don't know. But no, I think it was all like all the sex and stuff. Like it was, I don't know. I liked like whenever they were just in the like hotel room, just sitting naked across from each other, like just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Like 2 armchairs, they're just naked, just chilling there, just talking, and like I don't know. the suicide scene, like any suicide scene is gonna hit you a type of way. Like obviously, like it's never fun ever, and it's always to be emotional. But I think that, man, it's just a missed opportunity. Like a little bit, like they could have just dove into her story a little bit more and like given her some more moments or something to make that scene hit harder.
Mm-hmm. And maybe it does on rewatch, you know, like again, maybe there is something there where I can kind of project that onto it. But again, I think you should have that after the first viewing. You know, it shouldn't it shouldn't require a rewatch to feel a moment like that. And I think it didn't hit quite as hard as it could have. But regardless, it's still it was gonna hit. It was gonna hit. You know, I was gonna feel that shit. But yeah, man.
Yeah, the only one I'm still lost on, a favorite, is just a character. I don't know what character I would choose out of this movie. Like, I liked Matt Damon, and his character I thought was like
surprisingly
funny, and but I still like at the end of the day I'm like, okay,
right.
Like Oppenheimer himself.
If there's any character we explore the most, it's obviously Oppenheimer. But whenever we come to favorite character, I always it is kind of a split whether or not I go with who is like just personally my most likable character or who was like the main character who gets explored the most. I think the most likable character in this movie is either David Krumholtz's character, Oppenheimer's best friend, or Alden Ehrenreich as the senator's aide. I fucking love that character, and the way you watch him kind of turn on his boss as the movie goes on and kind of be like, you fucking asshole. You know, you've always treated me like shit because I'm your Senate aide, but like, you didn't have to do all this to this man. Like, what the fuck, dude?
I didn't have all the facts, you know, and he's, and like that line delivery of the Einstein conversation is like, well, maybe they were just talking about something a little more important. Open the door. Here you go, bud. Meet the press.
And then like Robert Downey Jr. has to like smile at him and like, dude, like the more I talk about it, the more I actually fucking love this movie. But like, I really, really enjoy Alden Ehrenreich. And I think, you know what, I'm going to commit to that. I think I'm going to go with Alden Ehrenreich as the senatorial aide, as my favorite character, which gives us my second favorite, character or performance that didn't actually have a name in the Christopher Nolan.
Senate aide.
Senate aide, and I picked Cillian Murphy as shell-shocked soldier in Dunkirk, you know, at least for the performance. But this gives Cillian Murphy a second performance for me in 4 movies. So
he's getting the performance. I think that's not even close. If we're talking about things.
And that's what's crazy is it's not even close, and everyone did so fucking good. Yeah. You know, like Robert Downey Jr. is probably runner-up. You know, like he, especially towards the end of the movie, wow, does he ramp that shit up. Emily Blunt, I gotta say, is top 3. She did so good. Florence, and then all the other like just little roles who kept popping up, and kept doing their thing. Alden Ehrenreich did fantastic in this movie. Rami Malek in his little moment. David Krumholtz was a very consistent presence in this movie, which I really appreciated. It's just a all around, from a critical standpoint, it's a fucking good one. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm struggling. Yeah, I mean, man, I'm just still going back and forth on who, like, character-wise I'm going to pick. And I think at the end, I mean, like, I'm debating on if anyone beats out Oppenheimer right now is where I'm kind of at. Because I really do, I like, there's so much there. Like, at first I don't really like him as much, but then as the movie goes on, when he starts to break down himself and have all these questions, I think, like, I don't know, I think he did handle himself really well. And the whole, like, bogged down to one ideology, but then it's thrown right back at him like, oh, but you're a physicist. Don't you bog down on one idea and then try to do your absolute best at that and then see what comes of it? It's like everything that there were so many just philosophical debates in here. And I don't know, I think that's really the strength of the movie. Not the science, not the actual project itself, but like the implications of it and what it caused. I think I'm gonna have to stick with with Cillian Murphy or Oppenheimer
for the character
as the character. I mean,
if there's any character that's getting explored the most fully,
it's
certainly not Alden Ehrenreich as the Senate aide. You know what I'm saying?
But a good, I don't know. It was very satisfying watching him though, like slowly unfold and being like, "Oh, you piece of shit! Like I can't believe you did this." Like he slowly start to figure it out. Like the line he had of like, "I remember when you told me that you don't want to be caught, being the one holding the knife or whatever," and then or like I don't know, like he had like so many comebacks for him that were just really nice. But then, I think. I was maybe gonna go with Emily Blunt's as the wife. Yeah, Kitty. Just for that one her scene when she comes in and talks to the board and 16. Like coming in there.
Oh, 17.
Yeah, man, that was so good. Like everyone coming in all professional and just talking. There's all the men, I guess, that came in there talking like that, and she's the only one to have like some emotion behind her words there, That's, I don't know, not an easy role to play. That's for sure. No. Like she had to a lot of like be drunk all the time and like just like I don't know, was drinking constantly and like just because goddamn, like raising kids is hard enough on its own, but then when your husband is creating the atomic bomb, like I don't know. Oh my god.
I'd be pushed to drinking as well.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think kids do that to enough people in itself, right. by itself. So, I mean, like, she's got more than a double whammy.
Doubly the problem going on at home.
But man, no, I think I'll give Cillian Murphy the double here for performance and character.
I like it. I
really did like
that. Makes me want to go to line next, where I think we get what is probably like the perfect ending to this movie. I don't think you could have done anything to wrap this story up as well as what they landed on here. I don't think it's possible to have found a better last scene to have built up this interaction between Albert Einstein and J. Robert Oppenheimer. The whole movie with Robert Downey Jr.'s character thinking it was all about him. Einstein wouldn't even look him in the eye. And it's just because he's so deep in thought about, oh God, did he? Yeah, is the world done for? And we don't even know if that's actually what happened there. Like there's no telling what actually happened there. But regardless, the line that Oppie delivers here, where he goes, "When I came to you with those calculations, we thought we might start a chain reaction that would destroy the entire world." And Einstein essentially has this, "Yes, what of it?" moment, and Oppenheimer responds, "I believe we did." And then he begins to imagine the destruction of the Earth due to nuclear fallout.
That's my shot. Yeah, your line follows perfectly into my shot. And I was debating on what to choose, but I mean, you're right in saying that there really isn't a better way to end this movie. And I think like whenever I was thinking of like the motivation for Nolan to make the movie, I think him ending it this way is pretty clear in him saying like, we still have this capability. Like this is a chain reaction. Is it still going? And it just over the span of a long, long time. And I don't know, you're like, it's a hard decision between like the complete space view of like the world just slowly getting engulfed in flames, or like when all the missiles just went up and you saw like just all the streak, just straight up, and like it's just I don't know. I love every time it jumped to what Oppenheimer was thinking at the time was so good. Like at the very beginning, it was just particles and little waves.
On the paralleling shots there, both in the rain, him looking at a body of water, the water droplets rippling into it, and he's thinking about the ripple effect. Like what happens because of this.
Yeah.
Every action keeps expanding and expanding, and the way that they showed that at the beginning and the end, kind of setting him on that journey and showing him where it's gone. And beyond that, the scene when Albert Einstein's talking to him right before he says that, when he's like, "You know what they'll do? You know, like you know, you'll grow up and they'll tell you they forgive you, and you'll feel like you've absolved yourself, but it'll all like it'll basically all be a sham. You know,
shit, maybe my character's Albert Einstein.
What a real one, man.
Yeah,
they made him feel like a good guy, which is
good. Yeah, and I don't know. He told him like, you know, I left my country. You know, they didn't do anything for me. I turned my back on him. He's like, maybe it's time for you to do the same.
Yeah.
And it doesn't he say like, I love this country though, or something like that. He's like, but I love this country.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't know what they've really done. I don't know. Like, I never got that sense of like during the movie, at least.
There's an interesting ideology about patriotism at large, where like, I think that when he says that, it's less any beef that he has, he knows it's with the people and not America at large. You know, he knows how to make it. He knows what's personal and what's not, and he knows the entire country of America doesn't hate him. And there's also this other perspective that could be like, he needs to believe he did things for something.
Yeah.
Some reason, you know.
That's true. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
If he'd have dropped that shit on Nazi Germany, probably a little easier for him to absolve his conscience, you know?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. If they drop it on Berlin? Like, where do you drop it? You know, it's still going to be a city, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is then do you come to a point where, you know, then they are dropping it somewhere where there's concentration camps and they're wiping out other Jewish people.
Ooh.
The way Oppenheimer, like, that's what motivated him to get into this, is that the Germans would use it to systematically destroy Jewish people. Like, it's
kind of crazy that like I had zero even idea that he was a communist or like thought, you know, maybe, and he says he's not really, but I mean, definitely
enough communists, you know, walk like a commie, talk like a commie. You might be a commie.
Also Jewish too. I just had no idea that the dude was Jewish, like a communist.
Oh, dude, and the reasoning whenever he's like, we've got 18 months ahead of Germany, and he's like, why? He says Hitler thinks this is Jewish science. We need to bet on him being a bigot, and we will have more time. You know, like like that's insane shit. Insane shit. So like,
cut and dry when it's
in that speech. I said was my favorite scene. There is a moment where I think he does tell the truth, and the only moment he might have, he's like, I only wish we had it sooner to drop it on Germany. Like he's talking through it, and he's like, we did it. I don't know what happened, but I'm sure Japan didn't like it. And he's like, fuck, man, wish we'd have had it for Germany. That'd have been really nice. You know, like, that sort of vibe.
Just a hard topic to even talk about, like, because it's just so devastating. Like I don't know. You brought up a good point of like the Eternal scene. I didn't think about that. Because they didn't show it go off. They just showed the aftermath. And even that alone was like, eesh, like, oh my gosh, like really, you put this in a superhero movie. Yeah. But even in the movie that it is solely about, they didn't even like, it was like, nope, don't need it at all. You know what happened.
Know what happened.
Yeah, we get the idea. I said I was 50-50 earlier, but like, there's no need for just to make visuals like that. Like there's
not. And I think it's incredibly purposeful that we don't even see, like later in the debriefing, we don't see what Oppenheimer's seeing because we know what he's seeing. You know, we don't need to see what he's seeing to know what the destruction those bombs caused is, or was, I should say.
Yeah. And maybe we didn't see it because he didn't look at it himself. You know, because I don't know, maybe that was it. It's like he couldn't even look at it, so we're not going to show you either. And that's, I don't know, I think that's the right call. That's for sure. Right. I don't know if I have said it yet, but we did talk about the Trinity test. That is what I did pick as my favorite scene. overall. And I don't know, it's just the build up towards it was just like 20 minutes. You know, them putting that like first power switch and like coming in, Josh Peck coming in there, turning the keys to like turn on all the to I don't know what the correct, like just charge the detonator, I guess. I don't know. There's probably a better way to say that.
Like, he literally says detonator's charged later. Yeah. So like,
and like it's just slow, like 20 minutes, or like not even that. Like I guess even before that, like the storm. You know, like it's stormy, and they're like, yeah, it's we'll go at like 5:30 in the morning. We'll go, and then like there's doubt.
Well, and the idea they're like the idea that they're like, if it's a dud, then we're fucked. We can't do anything. Like that's it. We're officially done. Plutonium and uranium will be scattered all over the desert. We don't have any means to go on if this fails. And that really one guy's like, I'm willing to bet a month's salary.
Yeah,
that this works. And Oppenheimer's like, sure, man, okay.
And like Matt Damon in the background being like, what the fuck does that even mean? He's like, a month's salary compared to $2 billion, you know, that we and all the time that we've spent in like this literal radioactive ore that's just going to be scattered on the you know, like.
But dude, that tension that they built during the Trinity test and leading up to it is impeccable. You know, I was gripped. I was on the edge of my seat, which is something that this movie does a surprisingly good job at throughout. But like when they ramp it up, they ramp it up. And the Trinity test is one of those moments.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess was it Ludwig Göransson who did the score for this? And
Ludwig Göransson.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm trying to remember, like, because like when it came, like, I don't know, I can't remember like a melody or like a, you know, how it went necessarily in my head, but I know it was used in the right times. Like the parts that weren't soundtrack, like just the stomping on the ground and like him putting himself back in that. That's kind of more like, I guess, the editing side and like the production. But like, I don't know. I think I'm trying to remember, like, I can't remember how it went. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know if there was just like a main.
Well, there was a music build up to the moment, because I remember like when it dropped out. You know, like that's something that's so effective when a musical cue does the opposite of what you expect it to. You expect it to swell in a moment when the bomb goes off, but then it just drops out from under you, and you're sitting there like, oh shit. You know, and it's completely silent. And that was something I got to give our theater credit for. We were in a packed house. I didn't hear a fucking peep all movie, which is
that was nice.
Gave me hope for humanity.
Yeah,
I've had a couple bad theater experiences in a row, and it was nice to have a good one.
People were locked in. That's for sure. I mean, everyone was locked into the movie. Yeah, I'm listening to it on Spotify now, and I can hear the build up. Yeah, like the build up to the test. The song's called Trinity. So yeah, it makes.
This is going to be the soundtrack for a little bit. You know, I went on Asteroid City for a while. I'm gonna switch over to Oppenheimer here before long, because this shit was good.
24 tracks total. I guess
it was pretty present. Like there was always music kind of in the background, which is I enjoy when a movie is structured like that. And I loved the credits song.
Yeah, I'm listening to that now.
Played when the credits rolled was really, really good.
Yeah, I don't know. Wait, I was almost like, should we wait to see if that Tenet post-credit scene is real? So I'm like, you know, maybe it was a joke, but maybe, I don't know, maybe the protagonist really shows up here or something. But I don't know. I don't know. I didn't look at the because in Tenet there is an Oppenheimer drop in there. They're like, yo, like I don't know, they it's very brief, but it is there. And I wonder if like did Robert Pattinson give him the book after the movie was all said and done, or like was it on set?
Party. It was at the wrap party.
Okay, so it wouldn't have been like a decision. He was like, okay, I know I'm going to make this movie next. No. I'll put this little line in here. Okay, because I didn't know, but some people are just saying that JFK, you know, they name drop JFK, and I think it's just because everyone knows JFK, and they're like, who were these three people that held their votes.
What was his name? Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. I've seen a couple people online comparing it to you should use your middle name. I really like it. Robin.
Robin? Yeah, I was gonna say, the
which
rises
is just, it's just it's like, man, really? No, I don't think that's what that is. But
No.
yeah, there's already a pretty great JFK biopic, to my understanding, starring Kevin Costner and Gary Oldman. Actually, Gary Oldman plays Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh,
yeah.
I did not know this. What's it called?
JFK, directed by Oliver Stone.
Wow. 1991. Okay, maybe that's before my time, but yeah,
Another 3-hour, 9-minute long little.
I did not know that existed. Oh.
Yeah, a lot of people have been revisiting it post Oppenheimer.
Still blowing my mind that Gary Oldman was Harry Truman. Like,
yeah,
what
and that's another good scene too. Whenever we actually see him, because we only see him for one scene. Yeah. And Oppenheimer's like, I feel like I have blood on my hands, and then he picks up the handkerchief out of his pocket and he like waves it in his face. And then he's leaving. He's like, never let that crybaby back in my fucking office. I'm like, M-I-Z, baby, Z-O-U. Like, goddamn.
That's right.
What
he's
a
from
fucking
here.
prick.
Wow. Yeah, like he's from here, Lee Summit. That's insane. Yeah.
Independence right up the road.
Or Independence. That's right. Independence. God damn. Yeah, I don't know that. And I guess he's sort of right in there. Like, he was the guy who decided to make the final cut. But
it's like, I don't know, Harry. Maybe you should feel a little worse about this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like, you haven't done anything like that before. No one's done anything like that before.
He's like, Japan's not thinking about who built it. They're thinking about who dropped it. And I dropped it. And it's almost like a point of pride for him. He's almost like, I did that shit, not you. Don't you fucking worry about it.
Then he walks out the room, and there is his face on Time magazine, or whatever. It's his face, like, that is being printed, and like his name that's being thrown around. Like, no, they are thinking of that guy. Like, yeah, probably Truman they hate the U.S. for doing it, but then they're like, oh, that fucking Oppenheimer guy. Like, they're definitely thinking of that dude.
Yeah,
I guess both of them, but it was kind of like a ego battle, or not ego battle, but like a popularity contest that Truman was having. He's like, well, you just created the thing. I actually dropped it on the country. What did you do? It's like, okay, well, that's where we're going. I'm coming here to tell you, like, maybe we should, that this is still a problem, and like we gotta get on top of this. And like he was just opening, like, being like kind of vulnerable in that moment, and then it's like just thrown back in his face, like, oh, you cry, baby.
Well, I think he thought that the person who might understand how he was feeling was the person who dropped the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And that person was like, nah, you pussy. Like,
I guess that's how a president kind of has to, I don't know.
You gotta, again, a different kind of compartmentalizing, but it's still compartmentalizing.
Yeah, imagine being the Oppenheimer's therapist. Like, imagine having to like sit there and be like, yeah, no, I know what you did, but like, we can get through this. Like, how do you even? What do you even say? What do you even say?
Yeah, like, he just gets done telling this whole story. Like, this whole story was actually just like a therapy session, and at the end they cut to the therapist, and he's like, "Yeesh." He's, damn, man, that's
above my pay grade.
Well, our hour's up.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah. We'll unpack that next time. I've got a 3:00. But
God,
what do you say we give a rating to this bad boy? Is it that time?
I think it is. All right, let's see. Okay, enjoyment first will be interesting. Tenet was at a 9.25. Dunkirk at a 9.5. And The Prestige at an 8.
I think for me personally, I'm hovering around that Dunkirk mark. I'm hovering around a 9.5. And the more we talked about it, the closer I got to a 9.75.
I think it's 9.5.
I'm comfortable.
If I had to say, I don't think I can put it above Dunkirk. Enjoyment, like, And that's I do think a second watch will really benefit it, but a movie shouldn't have to require that. But man, I mean, enjoyment for a different reason than like a Interstellar or
it's just
like
gripping, dude.
It's just the story is just that interesting in itself that like it's
incredibly. It just felt incredibly personal, intimate.
Yeah.
Like it just. I liked it a lot, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I did. You know, when we started talking about it, I ended up talking about a lot of stuff and realizing I really liked a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm comfortable with a 9.5 for sure.
Yeah, I think the second watch, what it'll mainly do is just like clarify a lot of things that I'm like a little gray or dizzy on like right now. But as far as like, I don't think it it subtracts from the movie all that much.
No.
But okay, I don't know if I could put it above Dunkirk.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I think that when it comes to like the ranking, they'd be pretty much tied. You know, as far as like 1, 2 Interstellar, Dark Knight for me, and then 3, 4 Oppenheimer, Dunkirk, with Tenet comfortably at 5.
Would I put
personally
it above the Dark Knight? That's tough. That is tough. Interstellar is comfortably 1 for me. Like that's one of my favorite.
I have no doubt.
Movies
If a movie affects me emotionally on that level, then
and the Dark Knight, maybe that's the closest one for Oppenheimer right now. Because I would go Interstellar, Dark Knight, or Oppenheimer. I don't know really where I put them, but then Dunkirk is probably right there behind it. But yeah, I think, I mean, as far as how well it was made, though, shit, I mean, critical, like, performances, we got some. It's going to be a great year for the Academy. Like, I don't really care much for the awards, but like just out of this movie alone,
it was fun to engage with it.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy's going to get a nomination.
Oh, that dude's dude. As of now, what we've gotten this year, there is not even a close runner-up for best lead actor. It's not close at the moment. This man is him. You know.
Support and all the supporting roles, like it's insane. Like how many.
Emily Blunt hardly had any screen time, and I wouldn't be surprised if she got a Best Supporting Actress nod. You know,
like Robert Downey will probably get one.
Almost certainly.
Say, Matt Damon could even get one. He was.
There's just a lot to like here.
And I'd say, I think the time jumps, it worked really, really well for the Einstein, like the conversation with Einstein, and maybe the second watch will clarify more on Robert Downey's and Strauss's story and make that twist hit a little harder. But I'd say, I don't know, it did kind of, you're already taking in so much information, and then you have to be like, okay, now I'm after the Manhattan Project. Now they, this has already happened, and now like you have to reframe kind of a lot.
Yeah. There's a few of those too. Yeah. That's something that another award that I think is like technically the sound design I think is pretty incredible. I think that cinematography is almost a fucking shoe-in for 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀𝘀 here. Like we said how this movie felt personal and intimate, and I think it's because of how often visually you can tell what Oppenheimer's thinking, not just through Cillian Murphy's performance, but through the camera work portraying Oppenheimer. Like,
his facial acting was like
astonishing.
Like so much of it, like just seeing his face and like his like him slowly dwindling, like over time, like you saw his hair get more and more gray, and like how like just like his face just seemed to like sag more. Like I don't know, it's insane. Like I don't know how much of that's makeup. Like obviously when he's old, getting like the like that's obvious.
Cillian Murphy just did that
makeup there. Yeah, no, he has it like that. But I mean, like for some of it, like it really just seemed that they just colored his hair, and then like it was really like him just like doing.
He has that look about him that just like I've been through hell and I've seen the other side and I've come back.
Shell shock soldier. Yeah, it's like maybe that was like. You know, maybe Nolan was thinking like blue eyes. Yeah, no, he has the look, and goddamn, he played a shell shock soldier already. You know, he knows how to kind of go down that route, and man, no, this was a perfect casting. That's for sure. I can't even. I don't know. I'm trying to think of anyone else who could replace him.
I think we're looking at a movie where we got the only director that could have directed it and the only lead actor who could have helmed it. I think that's it. You know, there's one actor that I think Matt Damon's role could have been given to if he were still alive, R.I.P. But I think the only person who could have made this movie better was Philip Seymour Hoffman, who in Matt Damon's role just would have absolutely obliterated shit.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. No, that would have been. Oh man, I didn't even. Yeah, that's an interesting question of like who else could fill the shoes of some of these characters. Yeah, Oppenheimer.
I think that's pretty just killing Murphy.
Yeah, I don't know. Matt Damon could have been. Yeah, he could. Like, I think he did it. He definitely played it well, and like,
100%.
Almost a character nod from me for him. But man, yeah, that would have been. He
just had this performance that felt like it could have been versatile in other hands. Like he was very present. He was in a lot of scenes, and he was the only kind of comedic character. He wasn't a comedy character by any means, but he was funny on several occasions. So I felt like his was the most open to like, oh, well, I could see this person in that role. I could see this person in that role. Like a few of the other ones that I think Robert Downey Jr. was the choice for Strauss. I think that like even fucking David Krumholtz for the role that he played, like that's his. I can't really imagine much else happening there. But yeah, it was just an interesting movie, man. And when it comes to critically, I think it's the best of the 4 we've covered here for the director's spotlight.
That's Dunkirk at a 9.25 is the highest.
And I think we're looking at a floor 9.5, maybe a 9.75.
Yeah, let's see. Is it 9.75? It's definitely 9.5. That's without a question. Like it's above Dunkirk.
I think I'm gonna go 9.5, simply because there are a few things that I feel like could have been explored in a deeper capacity, like with Florence Pugh, specifically. Fantastic actress who I felt was underutilized. The structure of the story, while it was incredibly well edited and paced, did leave me a little like not confused, but kind of lost in terms of what information I needed to know versus what they were just kind of telling me. So I'm comfortable with a 9.5. It's just small things that little tweaks could have made it a perfect movie, but and upon talking about it, it very well might be Nolan's best. You know, I have a tough time viewing Interstellar with objectivity.
As far as the craft goes, like, I mean, he is just kept building. Like, and I think
fucking filmmaking, man.
Like, he knows what he's doing, and I'm on board to.
Yeah, I rewatched Interstellar last night in anticipation of Oppenheimer today, and I think I could comfortably tell you that there's a tangibility about the craft of this movie that Interstellar doesn't quite have.
Yeah, Interstellar will make me cry all the time, multiple times. That's for sure.
And the craft of it is still incredible. You know, like they did extremely well on that movie. But there's something about this that just, again, we ground ourselves in this realism, this sort of like, wow, this actually happened, and it becomes that much more impactful. And to do something like that justice is incredibly difficult, and I think they fucking did it here. Christopher Nolan did, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess kind of he jumps back and forth between like fiction and nonfiction. Did Interstellar? Dunkirk came out after Interstellar, right? Did it go Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet,
Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet,
yeah,
Oppenheimer.
So it kind of goes back and forth. So maybe we get a crazy, some sci-fi story next.
Yeah, maybe that's next.
And then we get another. I don't know. It seems he's kind of, I don't know. Who knows if there's an actual pattern? He just, stories come up to him and he's like, yeah, I got to make a movie about this. I mean, it was a book given to him by Robert Pattinson, and before then, was he going to make a movie about Oppenheimer? Probably not.
Probably
I don't know. So I mean, it is kind of like the Grand Budapest stories. Just find your way. They find their way to you if you're looking for them. I don't know. I'm in the seat in the theater for whatever he releases next. That goes.
Yeah, at the beginning of this project, that was something I said. I was like, Christopher Nolan's not one of those. No matter what he does next, I'm gonna have to be there. That was something that I wouldn't have said before. But on the other side of this project, after these 4, whatever he does next, I'm gonna be there. I'll be seated. That's a guarantee.
I like Wes more still. I can comfortably say that. I think.
I would say Christopher Nolan might not even be top 5 favorites for me, director-wise. But regardless,
that's how much you like movies. Because he's still a great ass director. Like, that's the thing is that, like, he's still
I think I would go just right now. Wes Anderson, not in order. Wes Anderson, Scorsese, Spielberg. I would throw Gerwig in there. I think I definitely like Gerwig more than I like Nolan. And then to throw it even further back, probably Akira Kurosawa. But yeah, no, it's good fucking great directors, man. There's just so much good stuff. Ridley Scott, I like Ridley Scott. Damien Chazelle, La La Land, and Babylon, and
we're living through a pretty good time, a confusing time in movies right now, a little bit, kind of going all over the place. But man, do we have some talented people, that I don't know, director wise, actor wise, I don't know. We got some incredible talent that we're living. We got
some goodies. Hey, and if there's anything that this 95% for Oppenheimer here for us is showing us, it's that these artists, they deserve everything they're asking for. If you're one of those people who's like the writers and actors on strike, get off strike so that I can go ahead and watch new shit. Shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of here. These folks deserve more than what they're asking for. What they're asking for is the bare minimum, and they deserve everything for providing us the sort of the entertainment and the reflection of our own world that we need to see in movies. Like something like Oppenheimer. It's not escapism. There's nothing that you're not going to the theater to be like, I just want to forget reality for a while.
No, this reminds you heavily
of it. It's a brutal reflection of the world as we know it, and that's something you need, and that's something that actors and writers provide for us, and that's part of the reason that they need to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't fucking like it, even if you don't think it's good, guess what? You watched it. Someone made it. They deserve to be compensated for their labor. Call me call me Oppenheimer the way I'm out here unionizing.
That's how they made the bomb.
That's how they made the bomb.
They made the bomb by literally making a commune, and
we call that bombionism.
I don't think I've heard that one yet. That's pretty good. That might have to be a tweet here soon.
Yeah, right.
Label that and get that first before anyone else has that. Communism. Just seeing if it comes up anywhere. Dank memes. 2017. God had a pencil. Marx had a highlighter. God drew the world. And communist. Oh, never mind. Where's bombing? Oh, that's just the title of this. Never mind. Okay. Well, I guess it was used 6 years ago. By someone.
I'm taking it.
I really could have thought you would have
communism TM.
Yeah. I really. That's the first time I've ever heard of it. That was pretty good. But man, there we are. There's Nolan though. Another director down.
Another director down. We got Wes and Christopher Nolan out of the way. We got the Greta Gerwig next week, baby. I have already seen Barbie, and I cannot wait to talk about it. But before we do, we're going to give her the same treatment we've been giving Wes Anderson and Christopher Nolan, Greta Gerwig. We've got next week Little Women and Lady Bird, not in that order, Lady Bird and then Little Women. And then we're talking Barbie. A little 3-day stretch there. We're calling it the Greta Gerwig week. And I'm very excited for it, as she's just very quickly become top of the fucking pops, baby. That's
we'll be watching her career with very
great
interest. Very, very great interest.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Greta Gerwig's got in store, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what we had to say about him, because we already talked Lady Bird and Little Women. We got those all ready to get put out. And I can't wait for y'all to hear that. That's next week. And then we got Barbie next week as well. We'll be joined by Claire DeJaneiro. And I'm so excited to have her back. She's actually joining us twice next week, because we are going to talk Barbie with her. And then we're going to continue the Christopher Nolan director spotlight in soft mode with our comic book movie journey through film, as we are discussing Batman Begins next Friday.
Funny how things work out like that sometimes.
Yeah, they always do. They always happen like that. But yeah, I'm hoping that Greta Gerwig gets a similar treatment. Hoping that one day we can cover Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, directed by Greta Gerwig, in a perfect world. For me anyway. I would absolutely adore that. But yeah, we got all sorts of shit coming, man. Greta Gerwig next week, John Wick coverage in the month after that throughout August. We're doing John Wick 1 through 4 every Wednesday, and we're going to continue our comic book movie journey through film, which I can't wait. Yeah, just a bunch of good shit. We're continuing our Game of Thrones rewatch. I believe next week is season 4, episode 9, The Watchers on the Wall, which is a great battle episode of Game of Thrones. But yeah, just a bunch of good shit here on the Penny Bloom podcast. If you would, head to patreon.com/pennybloom_pod, where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content, including a $1.50 tier with written content, and a $3 tier with all of our recorded audio content. Head to Twitter, follow @PennyBloomPod, or head to X and follow @PennyBloomPod. Follow on Instagram @PennyBloomPodcast, and Threads might become a more viable option sooner than we thought. Remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever it is you might be listening, and continue to download these episodes. Thank you so much for making this officially the best month we've ever had, which is astonishing. Did not anticipate that after the last couple months, which were a couple of the worst we've had in a while. But hey, things turn around like that, and I'm so glad they did here. Best month we've ever had download-wise. So thank you very, very much. Any new listeners, thank you so much. And if you're fucking with us, be sure to share us with a friend. Share the love. You know, we love talking here, and we'll do it no matter how many people are listening. But it's nice to know people are listening. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, with that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. I don't think there's anything better to say than I am become death, destroyer of worlds.